Social shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, just some social shit for everyone, you know what I'm saying? Like, I made this be myself, so hear me. Woo! I mean, like, we can put all that clown shit away. There's some real shit for you. I'm spazzing right now, so listen, let's go. Yeah. It's in their bones, the thoughts and harmony for the love of the money. Then fall victim for the cookie, then turn pussy, it's lonely. You said you hold it down when life get rough, we're here now, so show me. We move them losses to them wins. Heavy pounds, we make it ends meet. Converse with only few who make me feel like I be 10 feet.
Yes, people, what's going on, man? It's G. We are back in the building. It is Zubimendi talk, of course. That is the big kind of news that is coming out of Anfield at this moment in time. Liverpool fans, as per usual, of course, we're gassed, innit? Do you know what I mean? We ain't had nothing. We are starving. Trust me, we're gassed at news. That's how you know it's mad. We're not gassed at a signing because we ain't at the time of this video. Liverpool have not signed Martin Zubimendi, but we are that gassed. That potential. That's how crazy it is, man. But of course, guys, please make sure you know the usual kind of stuff, man. Make sure you are smashing the like, make sure you do share, and make sure you do subscribe to the damn channel, people. We are on the road to 1,500 subscribers, and we're nearly there. We're nearly there. As I said before as well, once we do get to that 2,000 subscribers, we will be doing membership, and of course I will lay out what the membership plan is. I'm just in the middle of obviously sorting that out. So as I said, obviously we've heard this news obviously about Martin Zubimendi. We've seen, like, obviously it's kind of again, at the time of this video, it's now 9:30 in the morning, right, that I'm recording this video. At the time of this video, it just seems, for me, it's like a 60-40 at this moment in time. You know, it doesn't seem like it's fully there yet, but it also doesn't seem so far away, you know, kind of thing in terms of the deal. It still sounds like it could be quite a difficult deal. It will depend on a few factors. Whether Liverpool want to pay the fee, you know, all up front, whether there can be some type of negotiation in terms of how we structure that fee. If we're going to pay more than the actual, you know, release clause or buyout clause, whatever it is that they call it, or whichever actual thing it is. Yeah, it sounds like potentially we've convinced him, but again, like I said, it's more 60-40 for me anyway. Again, that's just from everything that's come out from Ornstein, Paul Joyce, Fabrizio Romano. Yeah, that's the kind of vibe that I'm getting. The deal's not done, but again, that's 9:30 in the morning. By the time that this video drops in and around, you know, 11 or 10:30, 11, for all I know, he signed. Do you know what I mean? So hopefully that is the case, you know, and this video will be more pertinent to that. So, as I said before, obviously, I'm here to talk about Zubimendi. I'm doing a little bit of research. Again, you know why I do these videos. It's so that we all have a base knowledge, either on the player, the system, pros, cons, because I think that's one thing that always bugs me. And big up, I think it's Pythagoras in Boots. Guys, please make sure you check them out. I'm in no affiliation with them at all, but check them out, though, because they always have really, really good videos, always really good videos, like in terms of when they're doing the tactical analysis on players, in terms of how they are as a player. Forget what system they would fit in, just how they are as a player. It's always balanced. That's what I love about analysis. I think too many people, when they do analysis, obviously bias in it, like, you know, you support whatever team. If this player comes in, immediately you just think, yeah, this guy, as soon as he comes into our team, he's going to be a guys, we're not saying that the person can't be good, but what are the pros and cons behind this player first? And the only reason why I say you need to have both is just so that you understand when you see those cons, because you will see them. Every player has them. Every single player in world football has cons in their game. When you see them, you're not 100% like, oh, he's shit. Like, you at least have a little bit of context behind them. That's the whole point of it. Like, just have a little bit of context. You know, don't you know, make it seem like, oh, he's rubbish. It was like, well, no, it's not that he's rubbish. It's just that that's just not really an area of his game. But guess what? If the team does X, Y, and Z, it will, you know, it will, you won't be able to see those deficiencies as much, kind of thing. And then we will see more of those pros, you know, kind of thing. And then you'll understand when you're watching the game that he's not that fast. All right. You know what? Cool. I get it now. He's not that fast. I'm not going to get on to him every time he can't make a tackle, or he's not able to run back and track back, and etc. etc. You just little things, man, little things. Again, I just use that as an example, but it is just more about like the little things, you know, in regards to those kind of things there. But yeah, that's the reason why I like analysis. And again, like this is I'm nowhere near as good as those guys. There's another guy, I think is FM, not Football Manager, but it's I think he's called FM. I'll try and find both of those and put them in the description so you guys can just check them out, man. Honestly, they're so good when it comes to the analysis and looking at certain things. But yeah, so I've been watching all of their videos, looking at Slot, how he plays, and also looking at the way that Zubimendi plays and trying to see how that would mesh. So I said, you know what, let's chop it up and let's have a conversation. Check out my previous video. It's on my page anyway. This is the one I did last year. I did this, I think it said it was like the 11th of July 2023. We're now August 2024. Now we're finally looking like we're getting the Gen Z Busquets. You know what I'm trying to say? That's what I called him last year when we were looking at like midfielders, and I really wanted us to get like someone like him in. And I do think it's like a year too late with, well, not too late, but a year late with this kind of signing. But it is what it is. So yeah, make sure you go and check that out, people. But obviously Zubimendi, as we know, DM / centre midfielder, but DM is mostly the position that he played in last season for Real Sociedad. I picked out like this is just one formation that Real Sociedad had used last season, which is 4-1-4-1. You can only see here like the midfield defense and the midfield, right? But when you're looking at this, right, you can see, of course, he is the lone guy in this midfield, but you can also see when we go to this is against Real Madrid, a game that they lost. I believe they lost this game. You can see the kind of positions. He's obviously number 4 that's highlighted, that he's obviously picking up on the pitch. Now you can see again the 2 centre backs, obviously the wing, the 2 full backs, obviously pushed up high and kind of wide, and then of course he's got the 2 centre backs back there, and he's kind of, at times anyway, he was kind of split in the middle of those two. I remember watching this game because I remember thinking to myself, like, this seems like a game. Obviously, I don't like Real Madrid, so I thought like this might be a game that Real Madrid might lose. They didn't lose, unfortunately. So it is what it is. But it was a tough game for Real Madrid, though. It was a tough game. It was a tough game. I will say that. But who cares if you don't get the 3 points, right? But yeah, as I said before, you got someone like Zubimendi who can obviously go in between the 2 centre backs when they obviously split, which then allows for him when he does get on the ball to be able to look, put his head up, pick out a pass if he needs to, etc. And then again, you've got here, this is his heat map from last season for Real Sociedad. So again, you can see this is someone who, especially with the way that, like, I felt like, looking at, again, I was looking at the way that Real Sociedad played last season, looking at the videos and the reports, and the way that they had it at times was like they had like a flat 3. I know in that game I just showed you there, that was when they played 4-1-4-1. That's more when they play against the big teams, so the Barcelonas, the Real Madrids, Atletico Madrids. At times, that's the kind of system or formation. It's still kind of the same thing, 4-3-3, but it's on formation wise, that's how it kind of looks, right? So obviously, when they've got that flat 3, it's a flat 3, but then Zubimendi will drop into the defensive midfield position. Mikel Merino, and I can't remember the other guy, he will then drop in to those kind of 8 positions. But more often than not, it's kind of movement between movement between a typical 4-3-3 that we'll see with a lone 6, but then also moving into that flat midfield 3. And again, that's to kind of help someone like Zubimendi, because obviously at times they're going to need help trying to cover those wide areas. So obviously that's what the 2 8s are going to do, at times, if, for example, someone like Zubimendi is not obviously able, to do so. So again, this is, all so far so good in terms of, for Liverpool fans, in terms of like the kind of DM, that we're kind of looking for. But of course, what are the stats and stuff? And of course, I'll head on over to Fbref as well, and we'll take a kind of little look, at that. You probably need to enlarging your screens and that, people. But and obviously this is from the 21-22 season. It was kind of difficult trying to find stats outside of Fbref, trying to see what's up with someone like a Zubimendi. But this is obviously from then. You can see that he's pretty good in the individual battles. He ranks pretty high. His dual success rate, obviously that was that season, that was since 21-22. So you can see pretty decent when he does come to that. So I know the guys who are probably sitting there thinking, what is he like off the ball? Is he, is he strong enough? Is he good enough? I feel like he'd be absolutely fine. I've got no real problems. You can see this is obviously his defensive actions, the 21-22 and 22-23 season. I think it was just under 300 defensive actions that he actually had across those 2 seasons, which is pretty good. You can see there's a large area here right by the, so you can imagine they're kicking left to right on your screen. Yeah, left to right on your screen. And you can see there's a large area near the goalkeeper, effectively. So you can see those are where some of the tackles that he was making, interceptions, blocks, and stuff like that. So again, this is someone who will get about on the pitch. This is someone who is there. And again, I'm one of those people, by the way, when I look at someone like Zubimendi, obviously he's not he's not a Yusuf Fofana. You know what I'm trying to say? He's not that type of DM, which is the kind of DM I would have thought that Liverpool were after before I've kind of saw the way that Liverpool played, which is you need like a Zubimendi, someone who can get about the pitch and is okay on the ball. Yeah, like obviously he's not as good as Zubimendi on the ball, but he's okay enough that you can still, you know, pop out and show. You know what I'm trying to say? Like it's one of those kind of things. And you need someone who's a bit more of an enforcer. I think that's what everybody thought. That's what we were all looking at. We were all trying to find that kind of guy. Now we've seen the way that, you know, Arne Slot wants to play. We can see that this is the type of midfielder we want. Someone who look at the way he's receiving some of these passes in that kind of pocket space, in the lone 6 position there in that central area. That's going to be an area he's going to need to be able to be comfortable to pick up the ball in. That's something I will say, in my personal opinion, he's very, very good at doing. He is very, very, at times, obviously this is just a stats wise, obviously he's good at doing it anyway. That's where he receives most passes, but that's just more due to the fact that Real Sociedad play in that kind of way in terms of their build up. But when he is on the ball at times, I'm like, no, he's comfortable. Like, listen, there are times he reminds me of like Thiago. You know, like Thiago can pass a ball and he's really good at passing the ball. Like he can find a man and blah, blah, blah. But you know, like sometimes Thiago will do like the extra stuff. Like you'll what's an example? Like you'll try and pass, like you'll pass to someone, but you'll make it look all fancy. And sometimes it doesn't come off. And you just think to yourself, why didn't you just pass normally? That's what Zubimendi does. And again, that's more eye test than anything. That can't really be quantified by any metric. But sometimes when I've seen him play, I'm like, bro, you know, you can just pass the ball normal. Like you don't have to do the most. Like we don't need to see your fancy tricks. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Obviously, this is just more of a still, just obviously when Zubimendi does have the ball. As we know with Liverpool, we want to build up through the middle. In terms of the way that we play, we want to kind of congest and have those kind of central overloads at times, especially with, you know, the 2 8s and then the front 3 all moving between each other. This is kind of a picture of what we kind of want to see in those attacking thirds. And as you can see, when Zubimendi does have those options, more often than not, he will, you know, of course, find those kind of passes. Again, this is another one here when he's a bit deeper. And again, this is what I'm talking about. When the centre-back split, he will obviously go, you know, sometimes into like that kind of back 3, you know, so to speak, especially when you've got the 2 fullbacks pushed up really high and wide. And you can see that run, this move right here, this is a move I can see Liverpool doing, especially if you've got someone like him in the middle or in that kind of pocket 6 position. Again, we'll have you can see the 4 players in front of him. You'll have those 4 players there, whether that be McAllister, Zabozalai, or Elliot and whoever in the midfield, and then obviously your wingers and then your striker up top. This is the kind of move I can actually see Liverpool doing quite frequently, you know, or trying to do anyway quite frequently next season. Because one of the things that I have noticed about Arne Slot is that it's all about keeping the ball moving, but let's keep the ball moving forward, as opposed to like obviously going back is literally, I have no other options, boss. Do you know what I mean? I've got literally no other options and I have to go back, you know, kind of thing. That's the only time I will, you know, realistically see that. So again, Zubimendi, like he's good in all those kind of areas. And again, it's more about the comfortability. This is against Barcelona, where he kind of had like a man-to-man marking job against Pedri. And he did it pretty well. He did it pretty well in this move anyway. He did it pretty well. He was able to he wasn't able to necessarily intercept, but he was there when there was a loose ball. I think the ball got played to Lewandowski at the time, and then he was there basically to kind of intercept. But again, he's good at doing all those kind of things. Obviously, I know the intensity and the pace of La Liga is not the same as the Premier League, of course. Like at the end of the day, the Premier League is the Premier League. It's a very intense league, and I think that for me is kind of the key. when we're looking at someone like anybody really and truly, but a Martin Zubimendi, is he going to be able to withstand the intensity of the Premier League? You know, that's obviously big questions. Like any signing, obviously there's certain signings that you will look at and be like, well, Haaland is Haaland, so you know he's already a brute force as it is. You know, I think I'm confident enough that he'll be able to sort himself out, in that regards. But ultimately, it is what it is. When you do come to the Premier League, that is going to be a factor. That is going to be something that you are going to have to be able to, withstand anyway. So I think it will take an adjustment period. I don't think he hits the ground running the way that people think he will, but I think what will help him is the way that we play. So yes, there are going to be some games. I'll say it here, Reds. There's going to be some games where I feel that we're going to get bullied. We're definitely going to get bullied just because, especially if you got him and McAllister in midfield, they're not two of the most physical individuals. They're really not. They're really good at playing football, so you'll get away with it. And by the way, I was just about to name Xavi Iniesta, but with the way that Barcelona played, unless we play that kind of style of football, then it's a bit different. They're an anomaly anyway, but you're going to need to play similar type of football in order to get away with having those two who are physically not really there. And I know everyone's going to say, oh, but look at the stats, the jewels. And yes, we know all of that. And we're not saying that these guys like McAllister anyway can't handle his own at times. But we know when you come up against certain midfields, at times you will get bullied. Not in every phase, not in every action, not in every transition, not in every single ball, but majority you would get bullied. And it might be 60-40, so you may not see too much of a big difference. But I feel like in certain games, this is probably where you probably need your Zabozalais or, another individual, or you need the team to be able to squeeze up, realistically from the back. Just before we move on to the way that how he might fit into necessarily a Liverpool system and the way that Liverpool play, I just want to take a look at the Fbref anyway. This is obviously from last season, by the way. Let's go to a complete scouting report. Let's take a real look at this. See what's up. Obviously, you can see similar players to Zubimendi, Chouameni, Mark Roca, Jesus, what about him? Etienne Capoue, Endo, Sander Berg, Ibrahima Sissoko. That's kind of interesting. That's very, very interesting. Let's go to this. So if I enlarge that for you guys to be able to see. Yeah, perfecto. Yeah, pretty decent in some of these. He's obviously the standard stats, blah blah blah. Progressive passes, he ranks 5.21, but he only ranks in the 62nd percentile. Progressive carries 1.01 per game, 40th percentile. Obviously, with these stats anyway, I always say this to anybody. With the stats, it's always context to the team that they play for. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, who are that team? Because let's say if he played for, I don't know, Bayern Munich or something like that, maybe some of these stats would look a little bit different. And that's not to let him get away with anything that you don't like. It's more just for you to kind of see. Because, for example, he makes 17 per 17. He's ranked 17th in the 17th percentile for progressive passes received. So you can obviously that's just more because of the position that he plays in. Progressive passes 5.21. Would that look different in a more dominant team? Real Sociedad are not the most dominant team in La Liga, so it is what it is, kind of thing. What else is there that look pretty decent? I don't care about the shot distance. Passing. This one's kind of interesting though. Passes completed per game makes about 45 per game. Passes attempted, he attempts about 53. It's all right. Pass completion 86%. Could be higher, if I'm being honest with you. Could be higher. Especially Spanish midfielder. Yeah, I mean, like in your head, you're like, meh. But total passing distance, blah blah blah. Passes completed, which are short, 20. Pass completion, short pass completion is pretty good though, 89%. And obviously, what's crazy? This is him compared to other DMs, by the way, people. So like it or lump it, this is what he kind of looks like in comparison to other DMs. Now, again, context, this is just to DMs. It doesn't say deep line playmakers. It doesn't say because they play for Barcelona. It's just literally DMs or people in his said position. So again, take all of these things with a pinch of salt. So yeah, passing. The thing is, the passing is okay. His passing is okay. Like I'm not gonna gas it up and sit here and say, oh my god, his passing is amazing. Stats are really, really good. It's not. They're not nothing to really scream home about. I'll be honest with you. I'm not saying it's an area that he needs to improve, so to speak. It's just more I wouldn't be gassed at seeing that, if that makes sense. Shot creation, obviously these DMs, I'm not really bothered about that. Defensive stats, interceptions, 1.18 per game. You've got number of players tackled plus number of interceptions, obviously it's 2.97. Clearances, errors, no, so he's good in that regard. Passes blocked, 0.86. Shot blocks in general, he makes about 1 block a game. Dribblers tackled per game. This is where I'm like, fairs. And the reason why I say fairs is just because he's got a 53.8%, which is obviously ranking him in the 78th percentile. That's cool. But I do see that as not a weakness, but you're going to come up against different type of players in the Premier League. Like I said, because of the level of intensity and how some teams like to play as well and how some players are, I just not worry, but I look at him against certain teams and I just think to myself, by the way, he's a player I want Liverpool to sign, by the way. I don't want that to get lost in translation. He is a player I want Liverpool to sign. But there are other moving parts to this where I'm like, you need to also sort out other areas of the pitch because Martin Zubimendi will not sort out the issues that Liverpool have in this kind of style. Let's put it that way. In possession, pretty okay in possession, to be honest with you. Could I say it could be better? Context to the team, it's all right. It's all right. But yeah, nothing really. Do you know what I mean? Like there was nothing too crazy within in those statistics. Again, you can check out Fbref for yourself anyway, and see what it's all about in regards to Zubimendi. But again, I'm only saying this just so that people don't get put down by the player because he's still a really, really good player. I will just say it's nothing to really write home about though. Statistically, that's the only thing I'll say about him. I'm not saying he doesn't have good stats because clearly he has good enough stats that Liverpool think he might be the player. I almost feel with someone like him, and I don't want to say, I almost feel like someone like him, he's more of an eye test individual. I feel like the stats are decent, but I look at him more as an eye test individual. That's the way I kind of feel with him. Is like you're more eye test than you are stats because your stats are not really like amazing and like that. They're okay in certain areas, of course they are. And again, like aerial duels and like aerials and stuff like that. Yeah, he's okay. Ground duels last season, I don't know. He wasn't really, the best individual when it came to those kind of things. But yeah, in overall, you're like, okay, yeah, these stats are all right. Like if I didn't, sometimes I always think to myself, if I took away the name and the individual and I just showed you these stats from Martin Zubimendi, right, and I didn't tell you who it was, would you be gassed if I told you, yeah, imagine we're going to sign this brother? You probably would be like, let me see someone else. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like you probably, and not because you don't think that player isn't necessarily good, but you've seen better stats. That's why I say for me, he is more of an eye test player than he is someone who statistically would be up there with the top players, in his position, if that makes sense. But again, like I said, clearly good enough for Liverpool to, potentially look at that and then move forward. Anyway, moving on to Liverpool. Now, obviously, we've seen with Arne Slot and the way that he kind of sets up this kind of new way of Liverpool building from the back. You can see that obviously the way that we want to press, especially from the front, when the opposition goalkeeper or defenders have the ball, we can see the way that, Liverpool are trying to press. And it's quite aggressive. That was something that I kind of saw it was taking us back to that kind of like old, obviously the last couple of seasons, it's been a bit janky, like half presses between Nunes or Diaz, Salah not really pressing kind of thing. He's just chilling out there on the right. But what we saw, especially against Arsenal, is that their press was so aggressive. At times, Arsenal were left in a pickle. They were left in a pickle. Now, the only difference, obviously, this is just this got nothing to do with Zubimendi, so to speak. But later on, it will. The problem with pressing like this at times that I saw against Arsenal is that when Mo Salah would press the goalkeeper, as an example, it leaves the left back, Zinchenko, it left him open. Once he's then left open, Arsenal are then able to play between the goalkeeper, centre back, and then the full back, which then allows Vinny to then move forward. Once Vinny's able to then move forward, that then creates a problem for the guys in the middle, because then players like an Elliott, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Zubimendi, you start to get confused as to who do I then pick up. And then sometimes it's all about, they're not going to be able to properly get as close to the man as they would like, because just from that one bit of pressing, once that press is then beaten at the front there, it becomes a bit confusing from what I saw. Now, that might change throughout time just because of the way that, you know, we're still learning the tactic and stuff like that, but that was just something to kind of take note, you know, in regards to that. And then obviously relating it to like a Zubimendi as an example, then you're looking at it thinking, okay, is he then going to be a bit lost if he's then having to defend so much in wide areas at times, you know, in terms of in the middle? This is where the communication, of course, is going to need to come in. This is obviously, you know, from the back, the kind of build up. You can see this is kind of how we were somewhat set up. You can see the goalkeeper right in the middle of the back two. So he kind of, obviously, once they're split, he's then the third centre back, so to speak. Then you've got your kind of four in front of that. So you can see the two fullbacks at times, not all the time. This isn't an all the time thing. At times, both fullbacks will come in, because we create that kind of, I want to say box, but really it's like a rectangle. But we'll create that, you know, on the width of the box, of the goalkeeper's box, right? So you've got Tsimikas and Bradley there, with obviously Jones and Szoboszlai in there. Obviously, as you guys can see on the screen, that then allows for us to either do one of two things. Either the ball goes out to Van den Berg, and then Van den Berg pop right into Carvalho. It can go straight to Carvalho if he's going to play a long ball, as an example, which then means that knockdown, and I think I've got a picture here, the knockdown is supposed to be there for someone like Jones, or on the other side as a Szoboszlai, in order for them to be able to, you know, get that second ball. That's something that I kind of saw quite a lot, was second balls. Obviously, again, we can also go straight to say someone like a Jones, Zubimendi, McAllister, whoever's in those kind of positions. Again, guys, imagine Zubimendi's on this pitch here. You need someone who is comfortable. Something we saw with Curtis Jones, or we see, is that Jones is comfortable in possession, but too comfortable, way too comfortable. Likes to hold on to the ball quite a lot because he's comfortable with it. He don't mind having the ball for a prolonged period of time. He wants to hold on to the ball at times, because it's almost like he's bringing that level of calm to the kind of team, and I get that at times. But sometimes I think his football IQ at times isn't always there. It's not that great, in my personal opinion, anyway, because there's a time and a place to do those kind of things. And we saw, especially against Arsenal at times and Manchester United, you know, he might be losing the ball, and you're just like, yeah, come on, man. Like, I need you to move the ball faster. But the option is there, of course, here. Depending on who the player presses, it's either Van den Berg, hit long to Carvalho, hit Van den Berg into Tsimikas, hit Jones, who's then got options, because then either he's playing it sideways to Szoboszlai, into Elliott if he's in a bit of space, or into Carvalho, and then you create the triangle, because once he passes that ball into Carvalho, Elliott can then move in there. And again, it's just about having a player, if you've got Zubimendi in there, someone who can see these things. That's where I say eye test. He's someone I look at straight away and say, he can see that pass straight away. He's not necessarily going to hold on to the ball. He's trying to get that ball forward as quickly as possible, if he can do so. You know what I mean? And I think that's where, you know, it would be better. And obviously you can just see here, this is just kind of like the triangles that it does create. And again, I like this system. I like the build-up play from the back. It's going to be important, as I say before, having that DM in that position who is comfortable in possession, comfortable being pressed. That's something that, again, the Joneses, the Szoboszlais, McAllister at times, even though he's probably the better one, McAllister at times, I'm like, these guys don't look too comfortable. You know what I mean? When you press them in that position, it's almost like, because if you press them anywhere else, I don't feel like they have too much of an issue. But the second you press these guys and they're facing their own goalkeeper and they're on the edge of the box, it's like panic stations. Like I don't feel comfortable. Zubimendi, I feel, is a comfortable individual, you know, within that. And again, it is all going to depend on the way that, you know, Liverpool utilize him properly. And of course, this is just showing here what I was saying before about being able to create those kind of triangles, further up the pitch when certain players, of course, get the ball. If Tsimikas moves out wide, obviously that player is going to then be dragged out, whether that number 24 was. Once that player gets dragged out, you can see Jones is in a bit of space. And this is where I can see, again, someone like Zubimendi being able to exploit that kind of space, especially if you've got the movement of whoever plays left wing, Jota, Elliott, Salah, McAllister, whoever's in there, Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez. These are all players who are very forward thinking, so I think, and also even with Salah, you can see he's plotted out wide on that right hand side. That's fantastic anyway, because you need someone out there, because you need someone either to draw someone out there just in case, which then creates a gap in the middle, or you need someone out there just to create an overlap. So Bradley, obviously, later on in the movement, etc. Yeah, you can see here, this is just all the same kind of stuff. Just really more about like how Liverpool will set up. So again, it's all about the movement. You can see here, Tsimikas is in this move. You can see Tsimikas has moved in. He's moved in almost into that kind of DM, position. The DM there, Jones, he's pushed on further forward. Now Carvalho is going to drop in. Van der Berg is going to pop that ball in. Once he does that, again, Jones then becomes a bit more alive. And again, if you imagine it as, let's say, Zubimendi in those positions, it's all about really, is that player intelligent enough, and is that player comfortable enough to pick up the ball in certain kind of areas? I think so. Moving on to the rotation, you guys can obviously see, again, this is another big thing. This is probably a better image here. This is what I was saying about the way that Liverpool kind of play, is that I feel that it's going to be more of this more than anything. I'm not convinced he's going to buy Zubimendi to be a lone six. I'm not saying that that's what he was going to do anyway, but I'm just not convinced of that. I think it's more about this kind of thing. It's more, at times, yes, you're going to be by yourself, but it's rotated. There's going to be a double pivot there at times. You might be by yourself at times. It really just depends. Obviously, more often than not, you might say, you know what, maybe Szoboszlai is always going to be the guy who's going to always drop in, if anyone's going to do that, kind of thing. Maybe it's Jones, whoever's playing, so to speak. But obviously, when they are in the middle of that part, again, it's about the passing option. That's what Liverpool's system is allowing. We saw with Szoboszlai this against Arsenal. We saw with Szoboszlai, when he gets the ball here, it's about having the passing options. You can see with the fullback, he's pushed up a bit higher than most. Cool. Now we've got passing options. Now we've got people he can actually pick out. Again, having Zubimendi in that position, I feel like it'd be better than having, say, a Szoboszlai in there, so to speak, because I just think, again, it's all about the football IQ, and things like that. Obviously, Liverpool want to be creating, central overloads and things like that. So again, really, we are geared up for having someone like a Zubimendi in the team, comfortable in possession, someone who's got very good football IQ, someone who can pick out, those progressive passes, press resistant. Those are the kind of things that we're kind of looking for. Something I don't think we really have, if I'm being totally honest with you. The only problem I have with this whole tactic, and why I look at it and think to myself, signing Zubimendi isn't going to fix this, is because defensively, Zubimendi is okay. He's not Palhinha. He's not that type of defensive midfielder. So someone like that kind of player alongside someone like Zubimendi, okay. Now I'm saying Liverpool are going to cook, because then you allow for, and obviously that's if you're going to have those two kind of sitting as two genuine pivots, and there is going to be no rotation, which becomes a bit more rigid. But let's just say that that's the kind of thing that you have. When teams, like I said, this is obviously against Arsenal, when teams create this kind of box kind of play inside of our midfield, or sorry, on the outside of our midfield three, or whoever's in there, once they create that, it does create problems for our team. Now, this is where I think I've seen quite a lot of people mention that they think, we need to get more aggressive left back or left-sided centre back. I'm not saying that won't help. What I am saying is that when you've got Jones, Elliott, and Szoboszlai in there, three players who are not that defensive minded anyway, in terms of their nature, Szoboszlai has got physical attributes of someone who can be defensive-minded, but he is not a defensive-minded individual. You know, I think that's a big difference in my opinion, anyway, with the way that I see someone like Szoboszlai. But he's got the attributes to potentially do so. But when you've got those kind of three players, and again, IQ isn't the greatest with these players, you can see that six in there, whoever that six is, whether it's Szoboszlai, whether it's McAllister, whether it's Zubimendi, they're going to become isolated. And once they become isolated, it's going to be difficult for them to be able to cover these wide areas. Now, I understand that's why people kept telling me, gee, it's all about if we sign a left-sided centre-back or we sign a left-back, that will probably negate that. I'm not disagreeing. I'm really not disagreeing. But it is definitely something that I look at, and I do sit there and think to myself, okay, Zubimendi's cool. Got no problems with that, you know, whatsoever. You know, I like him. I really want us to sign Zubimendi regardless. But that's not going to solve our problems defensively. That's not going to solve the problems defensively. That's where I have the issue. And that's why I'm like, and again, the window's not closed, and we probably hopefully will get some more signings in. We're still going to see kind of similar problems that we saw last season in transition. People, I think, again, this is why I say about pros and cons. Everybody's so focused about Liverpool on the ball in terms of when we have the ball and stuff like that. It's almost like you've forgotten, you know, the opposition at times will have the ball. You know, at times the opposition are going to be a threat. And I feel like nobody's focusing on that. But I saw big holes against Arsenal. I saw even bigger holes against Manchester United. I don't think Zubimendi comes in and changes that, though. It makes zero difference, in my opinion, him even being there in those positions. Where he will be effective, of course, is on the ball. I 100% know that. Zubimendi on the ball, of course, it's going to be better. Off the ball, though, I'm not. Nah, that like let's get that out of our minds, and that's the bit that I'm like, are we like? Is everyone just oblivious to that, or is it just because you're so gassed that for the first time in like 10 years, we're playing a more modern way of playing and not just run engine and all that crap that we were seeing for time. And now we're playing a bit more like, you know what I'm saying, sexier football. Is that the reason why we just all kind of like, it's oblivious to us? I don't know. Obviously, let me know in the comment section in regards to that. But that's how I see it. I feel like we're bypassing it because, like I said, we're playing sexier football. You know what I mean? Like, you know, players are popping it around. You know, there's rotations, there's patterns of play. We're just starving, bro. That's the way I see it. We're just starving. We're genuinely starving because obviously we're just gassed at this, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, like I said, and by the way, every system in the world is not flawless. Like I know we could pick holes at every single system, but I don't care about that. I'm just talking about Liverpool. When I look at Liverpool, there are still big problems, in my opinion, defensively. Yes, we look sound against Arsenal in that second half. They were still getting in, though. I'm trying to minimize all of that. They were just like Man United, like they were just mad unlucky, just wide from Marcus Rashford a couple of times. Keeper just gets there. Like it's little thing. And again, I know that's why the keepers are there for, but it's these are the kind of things that I'm like. Every team is going to concede chances. It's all about how can we negate or how can we lower the amount of chances that we're giving away. How can we lower so that we become almost impenetrable? Almost. You're not going to be fully, but almost. Because when I look to say Arsenal, for example, last season, it felt like that watching them. You're not getting past them. In fact, you're not even getting in behind. They're so solid. And I have not felt like that for Liverpool for time. And people say we've got better defenders. So this is why I say about Martin Zubimendi not changing that aspect about, you know, Liverpool. We're going to need other parts. But he himself, as a signing, I'll wait until we do sign him because I really don't want to go over the top. But he himself is a good signing. It's the first piece that you need. But I'm not going to sit here and say this propels Liverpool to some new heights. And I feel like that's just being very biased. I don't think that's the case. I think Liverpool need other players in order for these kind of things to happen because of the type of player that you're signing. But of course, let me know what you think in the comment section in regards to Zubimendi. Let me know how you think he might fit into the squad. And as I said, big up Pythagoras in boots, big up FM as well. those guys, like I said, their videos, amazing videos. Make sure you check out their stuff. Big up Fbref as well for the stats and stuff like that. Make sure you do smash that like on the way out, people, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Peace.